Officer Martinez, call my friend Tony, who owns the Hampton Inn on Federal Hill, Judge Caprio continued. Tell him I'm personally guaranteeing payment for a 2-week stay for Mrs. Santos and her children. Maria's face turned pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. She could barely form words, Your Honor. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't need to say anything, Judge Caprio replied gently. But I need you to listen carefully. I have been a judge for 30 years. I have sent people to prison. I have removed children from homes when necessary. I have enforced laws that sometimes felt cruel. But I have never, not once, seen a mother's love that didn't deserve a second chance. Your children are lucky to have a mother who would rather live in a car than give up on them. That kind of love is rare, and it is precious. The courtroom was silent. Even the prosecutor, who had raised objections moments before, wiped her eyes. Ma'am, what did you do before you worked at the hospital? The judge asked. I was a certified nursing assistant, Your Honor, Maria said. I worked in elderly care facilities for 8 years before having children. Judge Caprio nodded thoughtfully. Officer Martinez, call Providence General Hospital. Ask to speak with Administrator Johnson. Tell him I'm personally recommending Mrs. Santos for immediate hiring consideration as a CNA. Maria gasped, hands flying to her mouth. I can't guarantee they'll hire you, Judge Caprio said softly. But I can guarantee you'll have an interview. And when you walk in, you will have an address, a phone number, and childcare arranged. You will be able to take care of your children while you work. Then, in a gesture that would become legendary, Judge Caprio reached into his own wallet and pulled out two $20 bills. Take your children to McDonald's today, he said. Not because they need it, but because sometimes good things happen to good people. Maria broke down completely. 30 years of judicial experience had taught Judge Caprio to maintain professional distance, yet he placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Your children will grow up knowing their mother never gave up on them. That is a gift that cannot be bought. Within hours, the story had gone viral. National media picked up the video of the courtroom, calling Judge Caprio America's most compassionate judge. But for him, it was never about the attention. It was about restoring dignity. Providing hope. Helping a mother and her children take the first step toward a better life. Maria Santos secured the hospital job. She and her children moved into a small apartment within 2 weeks. 6 months later, she returned to courtroom 6A, not as a defendant, but as a visitor, bringing Isabella and Miguel. Your Honor, Isabella said shyly, my mom says you're an angel. No, sweetheart, Judge Caprio said with a gentle smile. I'm just a judge who remembers that everyone deserves a chance to start over. Miguel, now 9, added, Mr. Judge, my mom cries happy tears now instead of sad tears. Judge Caprio understood then what no law book could teach. Justice isn't measured by how many people you punish. It is measured by how many lives you help rebuild. The ripple effects of Maria's case were enormous. Judge Caprio established the Second Chance Fund, a court-administered emergency assistance program, helping hundreds of families facing similar crises. Local businesses began donating time, money, and job opportunities. Providence General Hospital created a childcare support program for single parents. Schools and social work programs used the story to demonstrate the power of restorative justice, and Maria herself thrived. Within 3 years, she graduated with honors from nursing school. She purchased a small house, where Isabella and Miguel could walk safely to school. Every Christmas, she sent Judge Caprio a photo of her smiling children, a reminder of how compassion, combined with justice, could change lives. Judge Caprio would often reflect on the lesson Maria taught him, that sometimes the most important law is the one written in the human heart. I used to think my job was to enforce rules, he would tell law students. Now I understand my job is to serve justice, and justice isn't always about following the rules. Sometimes it's about helping people rebuild their lives. The story of Maria Santos and Judge Frank Caprio continues to inspire, reminding the world that real justice is not just punishment, it is mercy, dignity, and hope. At Brown University. Now I understand that my job is to serve justice, and justice isn't always about following the rules. Sometimes it's about helping people rebuild their lives. Efficiency without humanity isn't justice, it's bureaucracy. The ripple effects of Maria Santos' case were felt far beyond courtroom 6A. Local law schools began incorporating restorative justice courses, emphasizing that future lawyers and judges must see the human being behind each case. Social work programs used the viral courtroom video to teach students that systemic problems often require systemic solutions, not just punishment. Even other judges took notice. Courtrooms across the country, from Detroit to Los Angeles to Miami, began experimenting with emergency assistance programs and compassionate interventions inspired by Judge Caprio's actions. Even Assistant District Attorney Robert Chun, who had initially objected, later admitted that Maria's case changed his perspective. I went to law school to prosecute criminals, he reflected. But I learned that sometimes the real crime is ignoring the circumstances that create the need for crime in the first place. Maria didn't just survive, she thrived. Within 3 years, she graduated nursing school with honors. She purchased a small house where Isabella and Miguel could walk safely to school. Each Christmas, she sent Judge Caprio a card with a photo of her smiling children, proof that a single act of understanding and compassion could have lifelong effects. The Second Chance Fund, inspired by Maria's case, had helped over 1,200 families by its 5th anniversary. But for Judge Caprio, the numbers were never the point. The real success, he explained to visiting judges from around the world, is measured in the restored dignity and hope of people who thought the system had forgotten them. Isabella Santos, now a teenager, captured the essence of that day best. "People ask my mom what it felt like when Judge Caprio helped us," she said. "But they're asking the wrong question. The important thing isn't what he gave us, it's what he saw in us. When you've been invisible for so long, being seen is the greatest gift you can receive." And Miguel, at 9 years old, added his own insight. "I don't remember being hungry or sleeping in the car very well. But I remember my mom crying happy tears for the first time. I remember her telling me that angels don't always have wings, sometimes they wear black robes and sit behind big desks." For Judge Caprio, the lesson was clear. Justice isn't only about rules, it's about people. The laws exist to serve humanity, not the other way around. Compassion, when paired with justice, multiplies the impact of authority. The story of Maria Santos became more than a viral video. It became a template for transforming institutions of punishment into institutions of healing. It proved that authority used wisely doesn't diminish power, it inspires it. And it demonstrated, above all, that sometimes the most radical thing a person in power can do is simply recognize the humanity of another, because in the end, justice isn't just about verdicts. It's about hope, dignity, and the chance to rebuild a life. Years later, the story of Maria Santos and Judge Frank Caprio remained a touchstone for what justice could and should be. Courts, schools, hospitals, and communities had all felt the ripple effects of one moment of compassion. Judge Caprio's philosophy that laws exist to serve people, not the other way around, was no longer an abstract principle. It was a living, breathing example of how humanity and justice could coexist. Maria Santos thrived. She advanced in her career at Providence General Hospital, eventually mentoring other single mothers trying to rebuild their lives. Isabella and Miguel grew up with stability, confidence, and the understanding that people who see your potential can change your trajectory forever. Every holiday, they sent Judge Caprio updates, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude for the belief that had given their family a new beginning. Judge Caprio himself never stopped reflecting on that transformative Tuesday in Courtroom 6A. He kept photographs of Isabella and Miguel on his desk, not as trophies, but as reminders that behind every case number was a human being with hopes, fears, and untapped potential. Every time he felt the pull of bureaucracy, he looked at those photos and remembered the core of his work: to see, to understand, and to serve. By the 5th anniversary of the Emergency Assistance Fund inspired by Maria's case, over 1,200 families had been helped. But Judge Caprio knew the real measure of success wasn't in statistics, it was in lives rebuilt, futures restored, and hope renewed. He often told visitors, being tough on crime isn't about being tough on people. The toughest thing we can do is eliminate the conditions that create crime. You can't arrest your way out of poverty, homelessness, or despair, but you can compassion your way through it. The viral video of Maria Santos' hearing had been viewed over 50 million times. Comments from across the globe poured in, stories of people finding hope, inspiration, and faith in humanity through Judge Caprio's actions. Yet the comments that mattered most were from Isabella and Miguel, who reminded the judge and everyone watching that being seen, being recognized for your worth, is often more powerful than any law. The story of Maria Santos was no longer just a courtroom anecdote. It became a blueprint for restorative justice, proving that authority used with wisdom and compassion doesn't weaken power, it amplifies it. And the greatest verdict of all, as Judge Caprio had shown, isn't guilty or innocent, it's the decision to honor human dignity, restore hope, and offer a second chance, because in the end, justice isn't only about enforcing rules. It's about creating opportunities, nurturing potential, and remembering that behind every case, every violation, every file, is a human life deserving of respect, empathy, and the chance to start over.